These are never-before-seen pictures of one of the world's fighting elites, a branch of the international military known as Special Forces. In small patrols, these soldiers undertake covert missions, far beyond the capabilities of conventional forces, often deep behind enemy lines. New Zealand is regarded as having one of the world's best special forces, having fought in many major conflicts for over half a century.
It will go in, and if the task is possible to undertake, it will do it and it will achieve the objectives.
New Zealand Special Air Service Group is an elite Tier 1 special force.
Yet despite ability for warfare in any terrain, there is almost nothing known about the New Zealand SAS. The unit has a strict no publicity policy, which they have rigorously upheld since its inception on the 1st of May 1955.
We need to maintain a level of secrecy so that we don't compromise tasks that are currently underway or potentially future tasks.
But its role in the global war on terror has taken the unit from the shadows and reluctantly placed it in the spotlight. In this series, our television cameras have been granted unprecedented access to New Zealand's most revered unit for 2 years. You will glimpse exclusive footage inside the world of New Zealand's Special Air Service, better known as NZ SAS. For reasons of national security and to ensure no current operations or personnel are compromised, much about this unit and its activities will remain forever secret. This is what we can reveal. Every year, the 12,000 men and women of New Zealand's Defence Forces are issued a discreet invitation by the NZ SAS to apply to join their number. Those who respond will discover this is no ordinary job application.
The Special Forces soldier is trained in a number of military disciplines, and that right there is what distinguishes them from the conventional soldier. What you have is what are known as the 1%ers. They're the uppermost 1% in both mental aptitude as well as physical aptitude.
It will demand 2 years of utmost dedication and personal sacrifice before they'll discover if they have what it takes to join the exclusive 1%. And it all begins with the infamous selection course, seen here for the first time. Selection will submit these 50 volunteers from the Army, Navy and Air Force to a series of tests designed to meet the minimum standards for an SAS soldier. Tests such as an ability to survive days without food or sleep and to safely navigate unfamiliar terrain, always against the clock. By the last day, whoever is left standing will have gone through physical and mental hell. Unaware of what lies ahead, the volunteers have been standing resolute since dawn, trying to hide any signs of nerves. Each knows few will make it through the next 10 days. What they don't realise is some won't even make it through today.
What was going through my mind was, just settle down and, it's a long road to home. It was built up to be something that is extremely difficult.
Not knowing what's going to happen and how you're going to react when it starts to happen.
It's the hardest challenge that they've had to undertake in their military careers to date.
Stand back! East!
With the famous sand-coloured beret and blue belt as their prize, the volunteers must be prepared to give their all.
For a number of you, you're going to be confronted with some very demanding challenges. It will really test you both physically and mentally.
I would rather have no one pass the selection than lower the standards.
Put your best foot forward, and I wish you all the best.
Next, some words of wisdom.
Look this way.
A veteran of missions in Malaya, Borneo and Vietnam, Honorary Colonel David Ogilvie is one of the unit's famous originals.
Initiative, resourcefulness, physical guts, mental drive, all the things that we're looking for from you. Give it heaps.
In everybody's mind, I think, when they enter selection is Just imagine that when you're nearly at the top of that hill, that there's another hill beyond that.
Everybody was feeling the pain, but you had a guy on each side of you who was exactly the same.
And they lasted one day, including some supposedly very fit physical training people. I think that, the whole thing was a bit much for them.
Now comes their first surprise. The volunteers have to empty their packs for a full inspection.
What we have given them makes up 35 kgs. It's been checked prior to them coming.
But history has shown there's always temptation for some to lessen the load.
If you don't have some of those items, it makes you stand out.
Move!
Watching the volunteers' every move are fully trained SAS soldiers, each with an innate understanding of what the unit needs, because they've had to prove it to get here. And it means they know all the shortcuts to look for.
Yeah, can you be rattled? So we can all be rattled. That's how quick some people get rattled compared to others.
Those with missing items face a dressing down and are re-kitted.
Get changed into PT kit.
Move!
These volunteers are as fit as they've ever been, following months of preparation. And they'll need to be.
We have to induce a certain amount of stress and mental fatigue in a very short time period, just to test the individuals and their ability to withstand all of that.
Course! Shut!
Listen up. On the command move, this is what I want to see happen. Leaving your weapons where they are, double down. Move!
Straight away, they must prove their fitness levels. Anyone not meeting the 10-minute target will fail.
When you want something in life, you've got to go after it. I came along very fit. I wanted to get in there. Nothing was going to stop me. Nothing. And I mean nothing. And they really gave it to me.
954, 955. 10 minutes 18. Let's move over to the side here.
The first test of selection, and already one man's dream is over.
That's it. If they don't meet the required standard of any of those fitness tests, they are removed.
Without pause, they are set a barrage of physical tests to which they must give maximum effort. And while some outperform, others crumble.
If you're lazy, you're going to have problems, eh? If you don't put the work in beforehand, it's going to catch you out.
Chin comes above and back down, full arm. Ensure that the legs stay naturally hanging at all times. All the way up.
Guys get nervous before doing pull-ups and they lose all their upper body strength.
G1 requirement, no more than 130.
Here, no one escapes scrutiny, and a few have underestimated what's required.
You start to see people drop out in the first couple of hours.
In a heartbeat, they're back in fatigues, as they're confronted with more hurdles. Tests that take several days in the conventional forces are crammed into the first few hours of SAS selection.
We do all the physical tests that are required in the New Zealand Army. That's the standard that we set.
The testing grounds are not restricted to dry land, as time and time again they're sent back into freezing water during the morning.
Move into the water.
But pushing the thresholds has been carefully calculated.
They compress everything together in one day.
And you think that if the whole selection's like this, you're going to have to dig a bit deeper.
First man sitting down on this train.
There's no respite, and they're straight into the next challenge.
Up that rope.
And by now, the body is starting to hurt.
When you get back down, you'll touch the ground, you get straight back up there.
They will be starting to feel fatigued.
Yep, stop there. You have to go back, start again. Stop.
Endurance is probably the biggest one rather than physical strength.
One more shot. Hurry up. Get up there.
It's only midday, but for some, the dream is over.
The selection course sorts out those who can actually put to one side the aggravation of the moment for the long-term purpose of, finishing.
Was demanding physically, mentally, and I guess to a degree emotionally.
It just made you run everywhere. All the gear you had, quite often the gear would be scattered from back of the barracks right down to the headquarters because we wouldn't have it fitting properly.
The temperature is rising fast on day one of selection for the New Zealand SAS. Already 4 volunteers are on their way home.
They have a measure of military experience already. They are fit. They are well motivated. They are a lot tougher.
The volunteers have undergone rigorous psychological tests to determine if they have the compulsory physical, mental and emotional balance that the unit demands.
We use multiple sources, so we use the personality test, cognitive test, we interview people, we look at their past performance. Past performance is one of the key indicators of future performance.
You may get people who are attracted to the unit who are definitely not suited for service in the unit because of their backgrounds, their profiling.
If they don't meet the qualities, we can't recommend them.
Afternoon brings on the real business of the day. And there are some who are just hanging in.
They should be strong enough, fit enough to be able to take that into their stride and keep going.
1 8-kilometre force march by foot, total 72 minutes to complete the task. Beware of oncoming traffic.
If they fail to meet the time, look for arrest, infringe in any way, they will be eliminated. Every footstep carries the added burden of 35 kilograms on their backs.
I was fortunate enough to come from the battalion where you carry your house on your back.
The combined load of the pack with survival gear, radios and weaponry is the equivalent of carrying 2 heavy suitcases. And with the clock ticking, it's all carried at a blister-inducing rate of 7 kilometres an hour. As muscles cramp and leather boots rub toes raw, the field thins out. Even these seasoned soldiers are starting to feel the effects of the day.
And you're starting to get blisters on your feet. You just got to cope with it.
The pack cuts into your shoulders.
It was going to hurt, but my focus was getting through.
If you look at pictures of soldiers, sometimes you see it's a little man who's carried the Bren gun. It's a little man who's carrying the machine gun. It's a little man who knows how to drive himself and has been doing that all of his life.
Come up when you're ready. Up.
While most have made it to the end, there are still those who are over the 72-minute time limit. And again, there is no second chance.
Well, you're gone.
After 10 bruising hours, those remaining are loaded into trucks and driven deep into country to face the brutal chase known as the Hare and Hounds. Although tired and sore, they must chase a fresh and fast SAS soldier, the Hare.
This is a maximal activity. You want to run as hard as you can for the given distance. You are to stop when told to stop. At no time are you to drop behind the 2 sweepers. Group 1, go!
Those volunteers on borrowed time are sent first.
Stand by, go!
Therefore, at the end, they should be coming in around about the same time.
And these 2 legs, they weren't going to let me down.
Go!
To make matters harder, 2 more SAS soldiers act as sweepers, the Hounds, and no one must finish behind them. By now, it's not just weariness that is slowing them down.
I think the boots play a big part as well. For me, I didn't choose the ideal boot for selection. I mean, if you can't walk, you can't finish. It's your wheels, really.
All the way through there is pain. It is hard, it's very hard. You're starting to get blisters by this time. The boots just rub.
The thought of being beaten by the clock or caught by the hounds is enough to spur most on.
And there's one speed only. Just go for it.
With time ebbing away, there is one last push to the finish line.
You know, if the bloke behind you passes you, you better start moving.
As the faster runners reach the end, there is relief. But they've only made it through the first day of 10. Meanwhile, the stragglers are in danger of falling prey to the hounds. For the unluckiest, time has run out on selection.
If anybody was truthful, it drives you on. You're going, I'm still here today. No, I'm not.
After 11 hours, of the 50 men who started out believing they had what it takes for New Zealand's Special Air Service, 9 were wrong.
The first day will break you physically, so then you've got to turn it on mentally.
And as the remainder will soon discover, this was the easiest day.
Lots of route marching, lots of sleepless nights, and lots of pressure put on to see if we could handle.
And all the time was this issue of, do I really want to be here? And of course, some people found out that sacrifice for them was not worth it.
And about 3 a.m. in the morning, running down the road in a pair of shorts and bare feet, I told the instructor, Joe Glenn, as he is now, Joe Pothanger then, to stick his ass up any place he liked, and I was leaving. And that was the end of the course.
It's the next phase of selection for New Zealand's elite SAS unit. Those who survive the physical challenges of day one now face a far tougher test.
The biggest challenge on our selection course is the second, third and fourth days.
Like SAS troopers operating behind enemy lines, the volunteers must navigate a route back to base via a series of checkpoints. Deceptively simple, open country navigation will prove the downfall of most on selection.
Also, that's the isolation factor, minimal communication, and of course it's controlled in terms of how much sleep and food they get.
The effects of food and sleep deprivation and strength-sapping pack work are intended to play havoc with their ability to function. Reading a map proves a struggle.
What's your distance? 3.6. How long do you reckon it'll take you?
1 hour, 12 minutes done.
But there is absolutely no help from those observing.
There's no encouragement on the selection course because the individual has to be self-motivated.
The NZ SAS seek men who can think on their feet and operate alone. For some, this lack of guidance causes unexpected pressure, which increases as the pace hots up.
A lot of people know they've got a certain amount of time, so that often weighs on people's mind. If they make an incorrect route choice, that often plays quite heavily.
When you look at A to B, it might be the look most direct and fast, but you need to go A through D and E to get to B.
My nav wasn't so hot. The thing I did was made sure I was quick on my feet, so if I made an error, I could make it up.
Sadly, even some of the more experienced soldiers have not had enough instruction or practice at navigation.
They know they've made a mistake, and then people start thinking, I'm behind. How far behind am I? What am I really doing out here? Is this getting too tough?
Once you've fallen behind in time, it's difficult to make it up.
You're put in a position where a lot of people are thinking about quitting,
and then they start that self-doubt process.
And that's where people start to drop out.
It's an unceremonial departure from selection for those who have given up.
That second, third and fourth day is where we have the highest attrition rates.
As the days blur together in the navigational phase, the volunteers struggle with the debilitating effects of sleep deprivation.
We keep them occupied and awake because we also meter out the amount of sleep that they have.
Tired.
Despite an increasingly fragile emotional state, they must maintain the highest levels of soldiering.
They're not normally carrying their rifle with two hands on the weapon, ready for use. It'll be frowned upon.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It isn't long before exhaustion and the grind of hard days take their toll.
Timings are harder and the food is less, and people push themselves further and harder each day until they just blow.
It's quite easy to see who's prepared and who's not. You know, are they still presenting themselves at checkpoints upright and quite fresh, or are they head down, a bit moping, maybe look like they're doubting themselves?
By now, even basic navigation is a challenge in concentration.
And it becomes very mental, especially towards the end, because you're not getting food and you're not getting sleep.
Where are we?
Your body keeps going. I mean, the body's a pretty amazing thing. The pain is here.
Physically, mentally and emotionally low, more and more volunteers fall further behind.
Because that's that decision point. I mean, you're back there, there's a pack, you can leave the pack there and walk away. You actually leave that pack back on your shoulders and keep going.
But these soldiers are drawn on by ambition to be part of a distinguished band of brothers. An elite which has participated in conflicts around the globe since 1955. Like its modus operandi, little is known of the unit's origins. In 1940, Hitler was winning the battle for North Africa. Germany had forced Britain into desperate retreat. The British retaliation would not be through conventional airstrikes or using divisions of Allied tanks. Instead, it would come from a small British land unit that targeted enemy supply lines and stationary aircraft in hit-and-run raids. This was the birth of the SAS, the Special Air Service, the brainchild of a brilliant Scots Guard, Lieutenant David Stirling. Large raids lacked the necessary element of surprise, so Stirling devised a plan involving small groups of highly trained and superbly motivated men with more than a touch of maverick.
Small groups inserted behind the enemy lines. It could inflict damage quite out of proportion to the number of people involved.
Even their name, the Special Air Service, was designed to fool German intelligence that the attacks were from large air divisions. The SAS soon linked up with another motorised commando raiding party called the Long Range Desert Group, or the LRDG. Only 100 men strong, the LRDG was stacked with New Zealand soldiers.
He knew of New Zealanders as being, as he put it, farmers, and they knew how to look after their vehicles. They're very adaptable. If there's anything that could be done, they would do it.
Like the SAS, the LRDG's methods were unconventional and missions clandestine.
It wasn't normal for the Long Range Desert Group to wear any insignia that indicated who they were. A shirt, a singlet, a pair of shorts, mountain climbing boots, and socks. That was our uniform. Yeah. And a smile.
Together, the SAS and LRDG travelled across the deserts, wreaking havoc against the enemy.
Shooting up convoys, blowing up dumps when they found them, and raiding airfields. But they say that the SAS and the Long Range Desert Group destroyed more planes on the ground than the Air Force did in the whole of the Egyptian campaign.
North Africa was New Zealand's introduction to the SAS. It would be the start of an enduring relationship, which today sees a new generation of hopefuls aspiring to join. And as the navigational phase moves into its final day, weary bodies rebel under the relentless pack marching.
I got major blisters. My feet were majorly swollen to the point that a few days into the selection, I couldn't take my boots off, or else I'd never be able to put them back on again. Straight across the shoulders, because that's there's the holding there. That's where all pain is.
Fatigue and unpredictable terrain are the cause of sprains and strains. For those crippled by their exertions, bright red panels on their packs ensure easy pickups when aerial rescue becomes necessary. As the casualties mount, the numbers still in contention fall. These hardy few are now running on empty.
People are going, well, if this is how I feel at this stage, I'm not going to make it.
Injuries, exhaustion and a loss of willpower mean this is the moment of truth.
Yeah, there's a lot of people dropping out, eh? I've got nothing left.
For 3 days on end, hungry and tired, they've marched with crippling loads. And then, the navigation phase is over. For many, it's been a test of endurance beyond their limits.
I think the pain was all over. I mean, the pain was all over your body.
The remaining volunteers are returned to barracks. With their bodies and minds reeling, and the promise of more days to follow, many realise their SAS dream is over.
Sort of sitting down going, is this really for me? What do I get out of it? Why am I doing it?
Throughout the long night, knowing what lies ahead becomes too much for fragile psyches. A trickle of withdrawals becomes a flood.
I think that staying awake when you've been awake pretty much for 5 or 6 days is the most difficult thing. It's the body's trying to shut you down.
I've never been so crippled in my life as trying to walk in bricks, frozen bricks, with wet socks and feet that resembled marshmallows.
And I can recall being so tired that I saw some dairy cows that went past and they were upside down, walking upside down.
There's only one way to join the New Zealand Special Air Service: to pass the arduous 10-day selection course.
Not everyone passes, nor should everyone pass. Would not have the calibre of the soldiers they could handle the types of missions or tasks that they're expected to do.
By day 8, the exhaustive search for the right recruits has meant that only 7 of the original 50 volunteers remain. If being starved and kept awake for a week wasn't already enough to break their spirits, then the next task surely will. In addition to their combat load, they must carry a full 20-litre jerry can through harsh swampland for 24 hours.
It's always been talked up as a nemesis and the thing that's going to exert most pain on your body and most pain on you mentally.
Alright, stand to attention there.
The challenging part is the fact that the people's minds believe that it is the hardest.
Exercise von Tensky. Yeah, this is our opportunity to weed out the dreamers from those who are going to carry on.
Like when athletes hit the wall, this is our wall.
And to make things even tougher, they must all take turns carrying a second jerry can.
And they'll check to make sure those caps are tight, you know. If anybody drops any water out of those, you'll get a punishment for it.
Identify north. Where you go?
They will be told a direction to travel in, and that's pretty much it.
Without deviating from their set course, they must push through whatever obstacle is in their path. Once von Tempsky is underway, there's only one way out: the finish.
Soldiers don't have to reach any destination. When it's time to stop, the activity will stop.
Overloaded with little room to manoeuvre, it's a slow and painful trudge forward.
It's just about putting one foot in front of the other, dogged determination to get through to the other end.
That's a lot of weight, especially when you start carrying the two, because it requires more balance. And you've got your pack on your back, and you've got a rifle slung as well.
Again, it's another 40 kilos when you're talking about weight.
But for dog-tired bodies, trying to put one blistered foot in front of another is agony.
Can't get through that way, stuff.
Even the environment conspires against them.
Yeah, I got cut up pretty heavily trying to push through.
That's where it hurt. It really started to hurt.
Hour after relentless hour, the task remains the same.
It was cold.
2 minutes.
It plays havoc when you stop. It's generally when you cramp up, so the best thing is to keep going.
A break offers little comfort as cold, wet clothes add extra weight and boots rub against raw blisters.
My feet went soft, and it was just a matter of letting them rot away at that time and sort it out later.
Bontemski is performing to expectation, testing each man's fortitude to breaking point.
Any thought of getting out of there or about going home, everything seems to cross people's minds at that point, and it really tests their determination of, do they really want to be there?
If the volunteers try to sneak in extra rest breaks, the staff push even harder.
Hurry up, doesn't take that long to sort out your gear.
Knowing SAS troopers have endured far worse during actual missions.
I don't know what the packs weighed, but they weighed more than we did. Probably 1.5 times what each individual weighed.
While fighting raged in East Timor, an SAS patrol faced their own Bontemski in an effort to protect a village from armed militia.
There was a particular village that was of interest to us. There was reports that militia were again harassing the local populace.
Facing impassable terrain, the only access was by foot, so each man had to carry his own equipment, supplies and water for 10 long sunbaked days.
Those were carrying, you had to carry 4 litres of water per day, but we could only carry about 7 days max, plus we had the food, plus we had ammunition, radios, our webbing, packs, sleeping gear, so it was out of control. I mean, we'd have to get lifted up on our feet by 2 people.
Used to patrolling long distances and training, in East Timor, the terrain and pack weight proved exhausting.
We could only walk for about 15-20 minutes in about 35-40 degree heat with no water before we'd have to have a break.
It's mental and physical toughness which drives Special Forces soldiers beyond the capabilities of most. For 14 hours, those left have carried close to their own body weight through New Zealand's toughest terrain.
It tests the individual, it tests them to an extent that you question why you are here and why are you doing this.
Just when the volunteers think they're getting a rest and some food, they discover it's not chocolate being handed out, but glow sticks.
And this guy said, oh, another 10 to go. I couldn't believe it. It just blew my mind. I said, you've got to be joking me, mate. He said, no, we've got another 10 hours to go.
This moment is make or break in Bontemski.
It's a big psychological barrier. You just got to get inside yourself and just keep pushing on.
Somehow, all 7 find the willpower to carry on.
He has to have willpower, but he has to have that. He has to believe in what he's doing and have that determination, which comes from an absolute belief in your own ability to achieve and to keep going under any circumstances. If he's got that, then he's got that different thing.
After continuing all night, Bontemski finally comes to an end. The 7 have made it through. Selection is almost over, but there is one final challenge ahead.
It's not the fear of being on or the unknown so much about the selection course, but it's that nagging fear that you might not make it
there were some very bad moments when you wanted to pull out.
I thought I could finish the 10 days all right. Well, my feet were like plates of meat, I suppose, you know.
Nine days ago, 50 men gathered at the secret location in a personal quest for selection into the New Zealand SAS. Only 7 remain, but their bodies and minds are at breaking point. Now they face a 60-kilometre route march that will take all day and night to complete.
It's a test of endurance, and all they have to do is get to the end.
But the volunteers' bodies are on the verge of total shutdown.
Physically, they are pretty much destroyed, although it's imposed and it's monitored.
Malnourished, vitamin deficient, it's their feet which suffer most.
Lance them and tape them. Try and control them best you can. Bottom line, it's going to hurt.
They're given their first decent feed in days.
I mean, I lost about 10, 12 kgs probably. Something horrendous.
I've never been so hungry in my life. Seriously.
This exercise is designed to test their will to the maximum. Can they continue to function to SAS standard at the extreme of their physical and mental tolerance?
It is incredibly demanding, and by the end of it, most people are pretty knackered. But you have to pass. You have to get to the end.
For one last time, they don heavy loads.
You're mentally fatigued, physically fatigued, your feet hurt. It's only 60 to go, eh?
The volunteers must somehow find hidden reserves if they are to stand any chance of completing the 60 Ks.
Why does a rugby player want to be an All Black? It's the same sort of thing. For me, it was about being the best of the best.
I still had this opportunity right in front of me. I wasn't going to let it go.
Yeah, I'm nearly there. You know, I just got to walk the 60K. And you're at the start point, and it's like, on your marks, get set, go. You know, and you're away.
One at a time, they begin their lonely march.
But then those first steps was like, oh shucks. Everything had seized up, and you just like, get moving, get moving.
For the first 10 kilometres, most push hard despite their frailty.
Because you're not as quick as you were on the first day. And you're quite a few kilos lighter.
Checkpoints come and go. Approaching the 20-kilometre mark, it's a struggle to maintain any momentum.
You start winding back. You know, you can't take big steps. You got to come in. Because you take big steps, you're really starting to, you know, pull on the muscles and that.
By now, they've passed the point of no return as their bodies start to shut down.
When do I stop for a 5-minute break? Do I stop for a 5-minute break? Because if you stop, then you seize up.
With his legs cruelly failing him at the last hurdle, one man's dream is shattered. Into the final 30 kilometres of the march, the 6 remaining soldiers wage an internal battle not to give up.
It's very much self-achievement. In this particular instance, you've got nobody pushing you. You want to be there, and you'll do anything to get there.
I chose to be there. I didn't have to be there. I chose to be there. I could leave at any time.
I wanted it, and I was going to run through a brick wall if I had to get it.
With 20 kilometres left, each man keeps going on pure willpower.
It started to get dark and it started to hallucinate. You started to see things moving.
And then you sort of go into a zone. You just look at the stars.
all sense of time is lost, and fearing they're falling behind, frustration sets in.
You get to a checkpoint, you think, this must be the last checkpoint. You keep going, and you just keep going, and that kept on happening.
Then, out of blackness, a small glowing light appears. This is the end of selection.
I didn't realise what you'd achieved up to then. I think the body and the brain was sort of like, oh, just shut down mode.
One by one, the remaining volunteers reach the last checkpoint, barely able to stand.
It didn't really cross my mind then. I just thought I'd finished and sweet.
It's a great feeling to know how far you can go. It really is. To know that you can just keep going and going till your heart stops.
With the last men in, their selection hell is at an end.
Sat down. Within a couple of minutes my nose started to bleed. My feet were blistered. I knew I'd gone quite a long way. It was further than I'd ever gone before.
After 10 days of selection, the ambitions of 50 have become the realisation for just 6 exhausted men who have earned the right to train for the New Zealand SAS.
If you ask anybody who's been in the unit what their proudest moment was, I think it would be when the selection panel says, you're in.
G'day, Private. Please take a seat. Firstly, congratulations. You've done a tremendous effort just to pass the selection course and get to the end of it. We are happy to select you and to take you for the training cycle and to give you the opportunity over the next 9 months to prove yourself and show that you're capable of being posted to this unit. Well done.
But today is only the beginning.
They aren't a member of the unit yet.
It'll take months of training to see if they have what it takes to become full members of the New Zealand SAS.
You do get told this is the easy part. The hard parts to come.
Next week, our cameras will follow the recruits through the demanding 9 months of SAS basic training, known as cycle. For the first time ever, you will see just what it takes to earn selection into one of the world's fighting elites, the New Zealand SAS.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.
You are watching exclusive footage inside the world of New Zealand's Special Air Service, better known as 1NZ SAS. Although the unit has a strict no publicity policy, its role in the global war on terror has reluctantly placed it in the spotlight. For 2 years, our television cameras have been granted unprecedented access to New Zealand's most revered military unit. For reasons of national security and to ensure no current operations or personnel are compromised, much about the New Zealand SAS's activities will remain forever secret. This is what we can reveal. Four months ago, 50 volunteers from the Army, Navy and Air Force were invited to the toughest selection process in the armed forces.
It's the hardest challenge that they've had to undertake in their military careers.
The prize, the chance to become an SAS soldier.
It's every young man's dream.
But for the dream to be realised, these volunteers had to make it through 10 days of hell, as they were put under the microscope and pushed further than ever before.
Get up there.
When athletes hit the wall, this is our wall.
Each day, the unsuitable were weeded out.
Not everyone passes, nor should everyone pass.
As their bodies and minds were pushed to breaking point, the numbers dropped until, by the end, just 6 were left standing.
Well done.
For each man, it's a significant personal milestone.
You do get told this is the easy part. The hard parts to come.
After a summer restoring fitness and leaving regiments and families behind, the successful 6 are joined by 2 more.
Usually we have some people who may have been injured on previous cycles.
First, the trainees are shown to the barracks they will call home for the duration of cycle. Among them are 2 officers who endured additional days of tests after selection in order to qualify for cycle.
And they got 9 months to either develop it, unleash it, or confirm that there's nothing there.
While cycle offers a sneak preview of life inside the unit, the trainees will seldom mix with badged members. That privilege will only come if they prove their worth over the next 9 months.
We're looking at this individual. Does he have what we believe now that he's shown us? Can he go further and conduct the other 9 months of training? Does he have the right temperament? Does he have the right intellect? Is he a good team player?
You on that uniform this morning? Get down, give me 20. Staff. Hurry up.
After a thorough inspection, they are introduced to the Regimental Sergeant Major, the RSM. Dedicated to upholding the standards of the unit, the RSM is the soldier's soldier who has risen through the ranks and commands the utmost respect.
Cycle, stand at pace! Stand easy. Right, welcome to day 1 at the unit. Today you commence your basic cycle of training. It'll be testing, it'll be demanding. If you cannot keep up, you will be removed from the cycle. If you dislike the person standing next to you, leave those thoughts and feelings at the gate when you come in. You'll be required to work together, to eat, sleep and socialise together. You will learn to rely on the people standing around you. You must trust them with your life. For the next 9 months, you will conduct yourself around this camp in double quick time. You will run everywhere. Train hard, fight easy. Course, caution.
Once you decide to do the cycle, you give it your all.
What wheel?
First thing they did was to disrupt your routine, so there was nothing regular. I remember the first morning we jogged towards the mess for breakfast, but we ran straight past it and we were into a pretty vigorous period of headwinds.
People wouldn't even talk to you. You weren't worth much to them. You'd only just passed selection. You were just someone who wanted to be at that stage.
Although it may be every young woman's dream to marry an SAS trooper, reality soon strikes home when she hasn't seen a young trooper for 9 months out of a year.
The unit's newest trainees are about to discover that what they will learn is far beyond any conventional soldiering.
Training is a combination of some serious book learning interspersed with unbelievable physical training. And therein lies the story, because sometimes it's hard to study books when you're physically exhausted, but that's exactly why they do it.
And they must strive to live up to the ethos of their British peers, 22 SAS. the benchmark of the International Special Air Service.
These are our tenets. Remember them and live by them daily. Number 1, the unrelenting pursuit of excellence.
The first few weeks are crammed with mental and physical challenges.
About teamwork tonight.
Number 2, maintaining the highest standards of discipline.
They are no longer treated as just soldiers.
At the end of this course, you will be able to plot and measure a course.
Number 3, the SAS brooks no sense of class.
So what we're going to go through now is the setting up of the beer can satellite antenna.
Number 4 is humour and humility.
Down! Down! Get it down there, push it, let's go, go! We'll do this all day.
Mag 58, M203, M4, C9, various foreign weapon systems. You will master them. You will know them inside out.
They must absorb a huge arsenal of weaponry for conventional and counter-terrorist tasks.
Everything was the top. It's 100% or just below.
Hurry up, too slow! Stopping around! I want to be in this unit!
The pace is non-stop. They run everywhere, either training or preparing for exams.
You might finish at the end of the day, and then you're going to spend the next 3 hours studying because you've got an exam the next morning.
Calculate the explosive content required to cut 6 50mm cables using PE4.
You might have bluffed it throughout the selection. They're looking at to make sure that it was the real deal that they saw in you.
But it's an unsuitable personality that proves the undoing for one soldier.
In such a small group, you get to see people warts and all, and sometimes, you know, the faces actually don't fit.
A failure to bond with his peers has dire consequences for one man's SAS dream.
We will cull them away and they'll never come back.
Left, front guard, move.
When operating behind enemy lines, they must be able to take care of themselves, with or without a weapon. Based on World War II hand-to-hand techniques, they're taught the art of close-quarter battle, CQB.
You learn combat. You learn how to disarm people. You learn how to fight, how they want you to fight.
The key to this, to sell a punch, to sell the old Hollywood.
Drawing on martial art techniques, this training will save their lives on operations.
That's good fight.
It will definitely be a case of kill or be killed. So we have to train with that in mind at all times.
During milling, a fighting technique using an open-handed punch, they must show no fear or mercy against their peers.
Inflicting pain on your friends? Yeah, it tests you, you know, because at the end of the day, it can be a bit of ill feeling in there.
Remember what you've been taught. Keep your helmet on, keep yourself covered up, lock horns, go hard. Go hard. Stand by, fight!
This is no fight club, but the trainers expect a full-blooded contest using controlled aggression.
Get in there. Good cover. Back on him. Good. Give him cover. Yeah, nice move. Get it off. Go back. Right back. Give it two. Come on. Keep it covered. Don't let it come up. Oh, right. Come here.
There's a fine line. Going too far or not going far enough and the instructor bollocking you because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Look what's going on. Keep your guard on, cover up, get back in there.
You can't take a few knocks in CQB, you're going to fail.
And again. Fight! Fight! Fight!
The collateral damage is split lips and broken noses. CQB is merely a start. The next challenge will take them behind enemy lines.
We soon got to realise that SAS really stood for Saturdays and Sundays because we worked every damn weekend.
We did have a constant string of injuries, particularly from parachuting, bad landings, cliff climbing, things like that, where you're going to have injuries anyway because of the nature of what you're doing. So there was a bed in Ward 10 that was nearly always occupied by one of our chaps, so it was called the SAS bed.
The rule is look straight out and jump straight out into nothingness. I mean, it isn't natural. fact, I've never got Ab like that at all.
After an intense first month, the trainees on cycle have learnt to be an SAS operative takes much more than just physical presence.
There are certain things that you can train a soldier, sailor or aviator to do. What is more difficult to do is to train the mind and to change a person's mental outlook.
The wrong attitude has cost one man already.
It's a huge pressure cycle. Yeah, you just don't know if you're going to be there the next day.
The next phase of cycle harks back to the original SAS Desert Raiders and the Long-Range Desert Group in World War II. The ability to infiltrate behind enemy lines kickstarts any SAS mission. The cycle members must learn the access techniques of land, sea and air.
They'd have to have the ability to function in those environments if they are going to effectively plug and play into the unit.
The first infiltration skill is rock climbing. Having acquired the basics of abseiling in a controlled environment, the manoeuvre is attempted on a sheer cliff face.
You don't really want to muck it up, it's a long way to fall.
This is no weekend climbing course. They're weighed down with a 40-kilogram combat pack, unexpected obstacles like this bush, and a ticking clock. Technically, these performances are poor. So once at the bottom, the trainees are ordered back up the cliff. They're better, but not much. The cycle instructors are unimpressed. Their message is blunt. Only drastic improvement will guarantee their continuation on cycle.
Got to be trusted. Person's got to be trusted. When you tell them to do something, you've got to know in your own mind that they're going to do it to the best of their ability. I must say we did have a few people that wouldn't do it, but they don't last long. Someone will catch them out in the finish.
Now mountaineers must become mariners as they learn the second infiltration skill, by sea. The trainees must be able to manoeuvre these small, fast Zodiac boats in all weathers, busy ports and harbours, and rough open sea. They must know how to beach craft on rugged coastlines, and if all goes wrong, repair a malfunctioning engine.
How to navigate on the sea, how to survive in the sea.
You just make sure you can swim very well.
The bottom line is take your seasick pills.
During the sea training, it's again evident some are struggling to achieve the standards expected.
Well, if you don't achieve it, you're not going to be there the next day, are you? If you don't pick up something quickly and how they want it to be done, and that's just the basics.
A lot of them will simply make wrong decisions that in combat will get them killed.
It's no surprise when the trainers decide on a direct course of action.
You know why you're here, so please take a seat.
With some privacy?
Yeah.
For one cycle member, there's been too many mistakes. As another goes, the pressure on the remaining 6 to succeed reaches a new intensity.
They just up the ante a bit more and make selection look easy.
The third infiltration skill, by air, is bread and butter for the New Zealand SAS. For 50 years, the unit has taught its members how to parachute behind enemy lines, a skill it has perfected. No cycle member will pass until he has taken his first jump, so they begin a rigorous training program to get them out the rear door of a Hercules at extremely low altitude.
I think being on cycle, it pushes you that little bit harder, and you're expected to go the extra mile.
The countdown to their first jump begins as the lumbering Hercules rises from the tarmac. The trainees have less than 1,000 feet to ensure a safe landing. Even a tiny misjudgment could prove fatal.
You're not really thinking about the jump, thinking more about what you've got to conduct whilst under canopy, whilst in the aircraft, very much the drills.
At this moment, any phobias or reservations must be put aside.
This stage of a person's training, there is no way that they're not going to jump out of that aircraft.
Stepping off the back of that Herc, it's just one big window out the back, and you take that first step like walking through a door.
During cycle, there'll be many jumps, some as great as 12,000 feet. But their first is the most memorable and the lowest.
Everything happens rather quickly. You don't get a lot of time under canopy at 1,000 feet.
In a matter of seconds, the trip to Earth is over.
Dangle and thump, you know, you fall and you hit the ground hard.
All land safely, and this time, no one is cold.
It was absolute crap. You get a timely reminder from the DS. There's only so many chances that you get before you're released.
If nobody finishes, we're fine with that, because we're not going to drop our standards just to have people come through the front gate.
There is one final infiltration skill to learn. From Vietnam to Afghanistan, SAS patrols have used helicopters to insert into some of the deadliest hotspots. Now the cycle members must learn how to exit safely from a fast-moving chopper. The task is repeated until the rough edges are ironed out. First, they are taught the art of rappelling. With the directing staff giving them close attention, errors must be avoided. Here they abseil 30 metres to the ground, with nothing but terra firma to break the fall.
It's a fast way to get where you're going.
Attempting to infiltrate into jungle conditions proves far tougher. Finally, the trainees must ascend a single swarm rope, an essential skill for landing in high-rise urban surroundings. Like all cycle courses, the manoeuvre is rehearsed until it's second nature. All succeed. The infiltration phase is complete. Next, the trainees will move on to the battlefield.
We really lived like pigs, you know, grovelling around on the jungle floor and never once did anybody complain. You'd look around, they'd give you a big smile and the thumbs up.
Maintaining that mental toughness of, okay, what's around the corner? There's a new job coming up, okay, let's get ready for that. Planning, rehearsals, preparation.
What doesn't leave you are the memories, like the good old soldiers. Well, they remember all the good times. They'll forget about the leeches and whatever else, and you know, being very tired and getting shot at.
It's Anzac Day. The cycle members have joined the unit, veterans, family and friends, for a private memorial service at Squadron HQ.
Today we pause and we salute and we give thanks to God for those who are prepared to suffer and die under the banners of justice and freedom.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old.
For the soldiers remaining on cycle, it's time to head into the field for a sustained period of patrol training.
Let my uniform remind me daily of the traditions of the Special Air Service of which I am part. If I'm inclined to doubt, steady my faith. If I'm tempted to sin, make me strong to resist. If I should miss the mark, me courage to try again.
For this next phase of cycle, the six will spend months living and working in a landscape of forest, mountain and scrub. The very same landscape that half a century ago played host to 800 hopeful recruits. Inspired by the British SAS, New Zealand formed its own Special Air Service on the 1st of May 1955. The job of establishing this elite force would fall to a visionary officer, Major Frank Rennie.
Because of his background in training, he knew exactly what he wanted for his SAS squadron.
An applicant had to be preferably single, under 6 foot, weigh less than 83 kilos, have their own teeth, good eyesight, no criminal record, and be above average intelligence.
He wanted endurance, integrity, personal drive.
By winter, the 800 hopefuls had been cut down to 180 men. At Waiouru military camp, they began a rigorous process to become New Zealand's first SAS soldiers.
To say that our feet never touched the ground would be literally true, because we started running and we ran everywhere, and we ran everywhere for the next 6 months.
The applicants would have to prove their skills in weapons handling and navigation. The training was always very physical, the infamous scaffold course being one of the challenges.
You had to jump gaps, climb from one level to the next, perhaps carried somebody in a fireman's lift. Then there was a flying fox, which to get down to the bottom. It was a diabolical thing.
In his drive for excellence, Rennie turned everything into a contest. Running competitions, initiative tests, always pitting troop against troop.
He had a famous saying, Smith, you better buck up. You'll be in the B team.
Such was the competition that everyone wanted to be in Rennie's SAS. But there was only room for 133 men.
And there were 4 left. And they had to be told by the commander that they'd failed. And that was very difficult. For them, especially. One of them broke down and cried.
7 days a week they trained, and then Rennie said he was satisfied. Today, it's another generation struggling through winter at Waiouru military camp.
It's cold, it's miserable, and you feel like you're literally right on the arse end of it.
Everything the 6 have learned so far on cycle is gearing them to the heart of any SAS mission, operating as a patrol.
It's definitely about trying to bond this group of individuals into a very tight-knit group.
What they learn now will keep them alive on deployment overseas.
In the main, you will not see SAS taking the offensive against an opponent. They will lay in wait and obviously stage ambushes, but they will do a lot of reconnoitering. They will do a lot of intelligence gathering.
Operating in small groups is a fundamental part of the unit. Being able to do that will see the success or not of missions that you will undertake if you complete and successfully pass the cycle of training. Work hard as an individual, work hard as a team, and the tenets that you've had drilled into you over the period of the training to date, hold them in high regard, hold them in your mind, hold them in your heart, and give it shit.
Retreating into the undergrowth for weeks at a time, they hone skills based on the unit's campaign history.
It's the next dimension into the training. You learn a lot of your bushcraft.
Here, veterans from Vietnam observed the trainees' every move during a silent patrol.
Your movement wasn't too bad, but there's one thing that really stood out to me, and that was you were bumping against trees. That's where I was picking you up from way the hell back.
Next, they learn to evade and track the enemy using skills that have made the New Zealand SAS world famous.
You can learn about your prey, what they're eating, their morale, how much weight he's carrying, everything about them. You learn about that by tracking these people.
Every broken branch and misplaced rock has a story to tell. as the soldiers learn to decipher trails in the undergrowth. After 3 months, the trainees are tuned into the landscape, able to lie silently and wait, often for days at a time.
Imagine 4 or 5 people sitting there for up to 5 days, not moving, not being able to cook or heat water or for a hot drink or cook their food, having cold food, and having enemy activity as close as 10 feet away from you. There was a lot of cold sweats as well as hot sweats.
A feature of this training is the way unit veterans ensure lessons are new, but old ones aren't forgotten.
It's wasteful to fire all 4 or 6 or 8 claymores that you're carrying when you're only going to get 2 or 3 kills on the track.
Most importantly, they must prepare for contact with the enemy.
Righto, go to it.
As with any operation, an enemy ambush can occur at any time. When it comes, the trainees must react immediately.
Come on, faster you get back there, the more rest you get.
But failure to respond appropriately means one more soldier is dismissed from cycle. None of the others see him removed. Month 6 of cycle. The 5 remaining trainees have now acquitted themselves with many of the basic requirements of an SAS trooper.
Load action.
But still their life on cycle is precarious.
They are not posted to the unit. They are only under assessment and they can be removed at any time.
It's self-induced, the pressures that you put on yourself to perform, because you know you're going to such a professional unit.
Hey, target destroyed.
They do have to be committed to excellence. They do have to be dedicated. They do have to be professional. They do have to want to belong to this organisation.
On overseas deployments, the NZ SAS is often called to do the jobs nobody else can. On cycle, this means destroying enemy targets using an array of heavy weapons.
Firing now.
Missing means mission failure.
You're humbled enough times, you make mistakes.
Then the pressure's going to be put on you even more to see if you can sort yourself out.
Let them have it.
By this stage of cycle, failure or success is measured in millimetres.
From here we'll move on to the 84s.
No worries.
Provided your weapons are very good, what else do you need? And using your nose and your eyes and your ears.
Everybody was a professional, and they knew that those skills were required, perhaps not tomorrow, but the next day or the day after.
That's where you start getting to grips of what the SAS is all about.
After 6 gruelling months, the 5 soldiers on the NZ SAS training cycle have reached crunch time.
By the end of it, you know their ins and outs, you know their strengths and weaknesses.
Next, they must prove they can function as a patrol, working behind enemy lines. The trainee patrol must destroy key targets with carefully placed explosives.
You're taught in the military to treat every weapon as if it's loaded. You treat every piece of ordnance as a weapon. You treat it with respect.
Once the mission is underway, there's no turning back. Ever alert for an unseen enemy, the patrol's first objective is to destroy the barbed wire perimeter. Now the long hours of classwork theory will be put into operational practice. They must strategically position measured explosives for maximum impact. The training staff now add incoming fire to test their mettle.
You can't afford to make a mistake. You've got to be thinking on your feet all the time.
And like any mission, it's not over until the patrol is safely extracted. Now the mission's fate will be judged by the flick of a switch. The trainees take this minor victory in their stride because they know the next challenge has been the end of many a soldier on cycle.
I'd get quite, I guess nervous is the word, and I'd have difficulty sleeping, difficulty eating, and the fears that I had were that I was going to do something that was going to cause my guys to be captured.
Spring arrives bringing the final cycle exercise, Operation Great Escape.
Great Escape is a final testing exercise, which is the test of them as a patrol.
That's what it's all about. Accumulation of everything you learned and then to go and test it.
The instructors will now learn how the trainees cope when being hunted down by a large enemy force. Operation Great Escape will put them in that very real scenario.
It's a will to live, a will to survive, and your will to succeed.
By the time this exercise is over, the fine line between training and the realities of war will have been blurred.
You treat it like a course. You've gone through all the other courses and that, so you want to pass.
Oblivious to the exact location, they are inserted 150 kilometres into enemy country.
They just dropped us there and said, well, off you go.
On the run, they must use their wits and guile to gather vital intelligence, then deliver it safely to a rendezvous while avoiding capture. The patrol has just 5 days to achieve its mission. The patrol is vastly outnumbered by the hunter force. Although this is just an exercise, all treat it as deadly real.
Mission. Company is to capture the enemy patrol through ambushing in order to ensure the continued security of New Zealand.
The manhunt begins. The skies fill with search helicopters and the army mobilises. Meanwhile, the patrol must rely on its own footwork to cover the ground.
You know the hunter force is looking for you. You got certain checkpoints to meet. I mean, the control of your destiny, if you like, is in your hands.
The patrol knows the only way to achieve its mission is to keep going through the night. But so does Hunter Force. Day 2, and Hunter Force has blocked all the main routes as its ground forces push deeper into the countryside. Knowing their pursuers are close by, the patrol is confronted with an open track. Their dilemma: cross and risk ambush, or head back towards the search party.
You make the wrong decision, you get caught.
It's not long before the dogs pick up the patrol's scent and the chase begins. At an open crossroads, they face exposure, but make it through unseen.
If the dog teams are on your tracks, then you got to move faster than them and drop their scent.
Day 3, the air throbs with activity, and the patrol again goes to ground. All the time, Hunter Force gets closer. As the choppers pass overhead, the patrol takes its chances in the dense undergrowth in a bid to confuse the chasing dogs. They move fast enough to drop the scent and only just make it to the checkpoint. They're given vital intelligence that must not fall into enemy hands under any circumstances.
It is really black and white when you look at it. Say nothing and get out of there is the aim.
It's day 4 of Operation Great Escape, and the patrol is exhausted.
You're there living and breathing for 24 hours. You're doing it without sleep, you're doing it without food.
They can only rest when Hunter Force allows.
Preferably a place that's pretty ugly, you know, where you don't think the enemy party will look for you or want to go in there.
Desperately behind on time, the patrol spies a shortcut. But is it an ambush?
Your mind's thinking about what if, what could happen.
Remembering what they've been taught from the veterans, the patrol correctly deduces that the broken foliage means a trap. They retreat into the undergrowth. It's the final night of Operation Great Escape, and Hunter Force intensifies their efforts. With 30 kilometres still to go, the patrol meets a waiting van to take them to their final destination. After 5 days on the run, their bodies steal a much-needed rest.
Let's try and get some rest if you can, guys.
This relaxation will prove a terrible mistake. The patrol has given up the safety of the undergrowth, and they're heading straight into an ambush. For 5 days and nights of Operation Great Escape, these soldiers have evaded capture from a large enemy force. They believe their task is finally over. The reality is, there is no great escape. They're being driven straight into an orchestrated ambush. Now surrounded by the entire Hunter Force, there's no chance of escape.
The lot of a Special Forces trooper who is captured by an enemy is a very unhappy one. The best thing that can happen is that they die quickly. That makes it imperative that they be trained in interrogation techniques, which in turn means that they have to be able to withstand brutality. It's an unfortunate part of the business, but it's a very ugly business to begin with.
For 5 long hours, they remain face down in the back of a lorry.
You've just got to prepare yourself mentally as much as you can for what happens next.
Now they're driven to an abandoned cabin in the middle of nowhere for their final ordeal.
It does involve taking these soldiers into the darker recesses of the human psyche, and it does involve physical pain. But if they don't explore these things in training, they are more likely to crack immediately when they fall into enemy hands.
It's about toughening this little nut up and saying that, you know, you can get through it.
It's very much a challenge to maintain focus.
Are you going to break?
One by one, they're led away to face their fate.
If people haven't assimilated the skills required, then our options are really there's only one, and that's that we remove them at that point in time.
It's a scene that only those involved in may witness. "48 hours later, they are finally released. They didn't crack. All 5 soldiers are through. it's been a profound experience.
It's not something anybody really talks about. The experience itself is between you and interrogators and the people that were there. Because it is, to a degree, humiliating, dangerous if it's not controlled properly. And yeah, it's not something you go and crack a bottle of champagne over, but it is, I believe, something that is needed.
One year ago, 50 men set out to join the NZ SAS. Today, only 5 have earned that badge.
To be badged, for us, to be badged in the SAS was the highlight of of my career anyway.
Went home and on leave, and I thought I was the king of the castle, and I've felt it ever since. When you put that beret on, you must feel 10 foot tall.
Said, oh, done that, and now let's try and demonstrate that you're worthy of it.
We are the pilgrims, Master. We shall go always a little further.
It's not about the marching, it's not about that. It goes deeper.
It's more of a sense of achievement within, I think.
Today, 2 families combine. The families of those being badged with the family that is one NZ SAS group.
We're all, humble.
New Zealand Special Air Service berets are presented to those personnel who have qualified on the NZ SAS basic cycle of training.
Your turn for operational service will come soon enough.
Congratulations, we wear this beret with pride.
You have a great deal more to learn, and remember always the pursuit of excellence. This is a significant rite of passage. You now stand with us and share a bond unlike any other. You are now one of us.
All the lessons you've learned through cycle and selection, knowing that you can go that little bit further, all the skills that you've picked up, and knowing that that's just the beginning. That's only just the beginning of what's really going to come.
In the world of the New Zealand SAS, the door has only just opened.
We've achieved a lot to get to that basic level of capability and be a posted member of the unit, but now you have to live it.
Next week, for the first time ever, you will see the inner workings of one of the world's fighting elites, the New Zealand SAS. Our cameras will follow the newly badged troopers as they acquire counter-terrorism skills, essential for modern warfare, where even New Zealand could become the battleground.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.
Somewhere in the North Island is a maximum security military base, home to one of the world's best special forces, the New Zealand Special Air Service, better known as 1 NZ SAS. Although this unit has a strict no publicity policy, its role in the global war on terror has reluctantly placed it in the spotlight. For 2 years, our television cameras have been granted unprecedented access to New Zealand's most revered unit. However, for reasons of national security and to ensure no current operations or personnel are compromised, much about this unit and its activities will remain forever secret. This is what we can reveal. year ago, 50 hopefuls from the Army, Navy and Air Force took part in the infamous NZ SAS selection course.
It's the hardest challenge that they've had to undertake in their military careers.
Why does a rugby player want to be an All Black? It's the same sort of thing.
By the end, only a handful remained.
I wanted it, and I was going to run through a brick wall if I had to get it.
8 soldiers then underwent 9 months of training in the arts of elite soldiering from the New Zealand SAS instructors.
It's 9 months of a large number of courses that each individual has to pass, and not only pass but do very well at.
Now they're going to start moulding you into what they want.
But before the end of this period, more would be culled. Eventually, 5 were invited to join 1 NZ SAS.
You form a strong bond with everybody on your cycle.
The guys I came through are my best friends, you know.
Wear this beret with pride.
This is a significant rite of passage. You are now one of us.
It's taken 12 momentous months for these 5 soldiers to become part of the NZ SAS. During this time, they've had little to do with other SAS personnel, living outside the compound and only gaining access to restricted parts of the camp for training. Today, all that changes.
It's been a long 9 months getting there, and you were there for a job. You weren't there to bask in the glory. There were jobs to be done, and you want to get on and do them.
Now the unit's newest troopers will find themselves assigned to a division of the unit known simply as A Squadron.
They'll be split up from their cycle, they'll be farmed out amongst the unit, and they'll be expected to contribute straight away.
An inconspicuous metal shed is their base.
Welcome to A Squadron. I'm Squadron Sergeant Major. Welcome aboard.
The Squadron Sergeant Major greets them for a tour of their new home.
This area we're going through now is the regimental area. Keep an eye on the notice boards, that's where you'll find out what's happening with you at certain times. This is the A Squadron hangar. This is where most of your equipment and that will be kept.
As new members of the squadron, they'll serve a 2-year probation period and learn the standards expected of an SAS soldier, working alongside their more experienced peers.
It all begins, isn't it? You get your clothing, you get your kit handed out to you.
The quartermaster supplies apparel for every possible role. Fatigues for jungle, desert and counter-terrorist activities.
Now make sure it's all there and then sign at the bottom.
But these uniforms only hint at what it means to be part of the NZ SAS.
The 3 words, which are commonly used, community, whānau, family, the only ways to express those very strong mental and emotional bonds.
My wife has accepted the fact that if one of my guys phone up for some reason, I'll drop what I'm doing to help him. And I've been doing that for 30 years or something, 35 years. And she knows that although she is the number 1 person in my life, definitely SAS is number 2.
My first day at work, I got told, go home, come back in civvies, and tell your wife you don't know when you'll be home next. That was my introduction to the unit.
The soldiers wait quietly to meet their new boss, the commander of A Squadron, who offers some words of advice.
They're moving from a structured, formalised teaching environment to an informal environment that the squadrons are.
I'm sure people might have already suggested to you, don't know to go to your heads, but I'm sure that you won't. Put your heads down, work hard, that's how you earn respect around here, particularly with you guys.
It's a little bit more relaxed, eh? You know, they're not barking at you, they're giving you good advice.
Probably an old saying goes around this place that says, you know, getting is hard and staying is harder. That's, to unsettle you. Here we expect guys to be told to get on with the job, and then once they've been told that, they just get on with it.
You feel the training wheels just drop straight off, and whack, there's personal responsibility.
But there's still one more briefing. Now the new troopers are called to an address from the unit CO, its highest ranking officer.
Boss, they ready?
You get taken through, people looking down at you, you're wondering, okay, how do I fit into this?
Their roles are as peacekeepers, information gatherers, fighters in the international war on terror.
Gentlemen, you have reached a significant milestone. You have earned the right to wear the coveted unit wing dagger, beret and badge.
The CO's message is straight to the point.
Today, your job's just got a lot tougher. September 11th, 2001 saw this unit transform itself to meet a new and emerging threat. When the time comes, I can assure you there will be little or no warning. You must be efficient and ruthless in the execution of your duties because there will be no second chance.
With this, the gauntlet has been laid down for the new troopers.
How can I show them that I am what I am? And how can I prove myself to them?
One final ritual awaits the squadron's newest members, a well-earned beer.
Congratulations, well done. Congratulations. Good week. Lovely mates. Good on you.
The SAS is very much a close family. So once in the family, they look after each other exceptionally well.
Cheers, fellas. Cheers.
Now it's time to start work in earnest.
You are expected as a badge member of the unit to contribute. The pressure will be on them. You have to live up to those standards, and that is a challenge.
As NZ SAS soldiers, they must master a variety of advanced skills.
Okay, gents, what makes Special Operations Forces special?
In the world of Special Forces, New Zealand's SAS ranks among the best, with their ability to infiltrate anywhere by land, sea or air. As long-range intelligence gatherers, as soldiers who can take direct action against an enemy, and for their anti-terrorism and counter-terrorism skills, known by the unit as Black Roll.
We're jack of all trades to a certain degree, and we need to be able to take those skills that we have and apply them wherever a given task comes up, because some of these things, as we've discovered in the last few years, just come out of the blue.
They have to have skills that go across a range of different environments and a range of different scenarios. I think that they have those competencies, and I think that they can bring their skills to bear on a range of different situations where New Zealand might be called upon to protect its own interests and the interests of the international community.
Their first task as an SAS soldier goes to the very heart of the unit's tenets: humility.
Once you pass the cycle, you get your broom handed to you and told that's yours. You know what to do with it. For the next year, you're on probation. You're the broom boy.
You're the plebe.
If you can't pick up a broom and sweep, where's your humility?
They will be expected to accept where their position is and learn their trade and start advancing from there.
Sweeping in silence, each trooper contemplates how much they have to learn. But they know somewhere, sometime, they will be called into action.